Welcome, everybody. IdahoSports.com 2016 Fall Football Preview. Talking 1A Division II, the smallest of the small, but they still matter to us. Will Hoenike, Matt Harris, Paul Kingsbury joining us here as we get ready for another fantastic season kickoff. Boy, right around the corners, guys. You're talking about August 26th. It doesn't seem like it was that long ago where we were broadcasting the 1A Division II state championship game.
It's amazing how fast its time has flown since football season ended. It just feels like it just comes up so fast every single year.
You know, what a fun state championship game that was, too. I mean, 22-20, Salmon River won, 2-point conversion at the end. Salmon River had this hidden ball trick earlier in the fourth quarter. It was a fun game to watch all the way around. 1A Division II is just a fun classification for me. I love going and doing those games. 8-man as a whole is fun. And like you said, you know, we still care about 1A D2. You know, I mentioned in the 1A D1 that I'd be happy to petition the IHSA to make the entire state of Idaho 8-man football.
Salmon River, the state champion. What a program Charlie Shepard has going up there in Riggins. We'll talk about that coming up in just a minute. But I wanted to start in District 1/District 2, the White Star Conference, which is a combination of the old White Pine and North Star. So you're basically everybody from Clark Fork down through Lewis County to Timberline to Weehawken and all points in between. And you've got Kendrick in there. You've got Deary, team that went to the state championship game. Tyler Anderson, all-state player, gone for Deary. But again, just like the White Pine Conference in the 1A Division I, you look at this 1A D2 White Star League, and there's some depth. It's not going to be easy to navigate those waters.
You know, you're right. It's an 8-team conference. Mullen's back this year, which is great. Kootenai had a little off year last year, but you're looking at Deary 11-1, Timberline 6-2. Kendrick 5-4, and Kendrick is one of those breakout teams that we could really see this year make some noise up there in North Idaho.
Timberline had a great year last year, as you mentioned, and you know Deary's always just seems to be tough year in and year out. I expect a lot of the same for them this year. And hey, Mullen is back this year after a 1-year hiatus. They've got a football team once again. It's good to see them back.
And
too.
it was with Stetson Spooner, the head coach and the athletic director at Mullen. It was touch and go up until a few weeks ago, whether or not they were going to have a team. They had to shut it down last year. They're back in this year, and boy, is that great to see that community along Interstate 90, a little bit east of Coeur d'Alene. It's great to see them back in it, if for no other reason than the balance. I mean, if you're a Clark Fork where you're up there, Lake Pend Oreille area, it's tough enough to play in this division with Mullen, being relatively close, with Kootenai being relatively close. You take those teams out, and you're talking about, your nearest road game being a Kendrick. Boy, that puts a lot of stress on the conference as a whole.
And you're looking at Deary. They've got, in the notes here, they have road trips to the northern and southernmost outposts of the conference. They're going up to, down to Timberline, to Clark Fork. Long bus rides, and that affects budgets. It affects school time. It affects sitting your butt on a bus for that many hours. It affects everything. But it's what you have to do when you're in a conference like this.
Deary returns second-team All-State linebacker Seth Winter. You got to figure Doug Henderson's group, they're going to be firmly in the mix again to be competitive and maybe make another run.
They seem to be every single year. I mean, they have a good tradition there, a good program established. Kids moving up know what's expected of them. And for them making it to the state title game last year, I mean, that was the closest state title game out of the 6 state title games that there were in Idaho last year. Yep. And it was a great game, start to finish. I mean, Deary very well could have won that, and we'd be talking about them as the state title, as the state champion. So, I don't see any real drop off for Deary overall.
Well, speaking of Deary, you mentioned Winter coming back. Jalen Kirk also coming back, a leader on the team, one of the good athletes they've got. Need to make sure we mention Kirk coming back.
Got to get him as well. 8-man football for the past several years has basically been run by District 2, which would be your White Star League, and the Sawtooth West, 1A Division II in District 4, where you've got Cary, you've got Dietrich, you've got Lighthouse Christian, just another real gauntlet of teams down there in District 4 that, somebody's going to have to slog their way through and win some big games to reach a state championship potentially.
And Lighthouse Christian has been a very, very good team for a very long time now. They have a couple of state titles to their credit, and they're just tough every single year, no matter what happens, no matter who you plug in there. They've got a great program going there, as well as they do at Cary. Cary has been a traditional power as well in District 4. For a while there, it was Lighthouse Christian, Cary, and Salmon River. Those three names you'd see rotating on the state tournament champions list. Yeah. And I'd expect Cary I mean, they never disappoint. That last year, kind of a younger year for them, but hey, they made it to the state semifinals.
You know,
only 3 home games though for Carey. That's something that could come into play.
Now, one thing about Carey, 31 players. They got 31 players in Carey. That's most than a lot of these 1A D2 teams have in their high school, and they've got that. They have to rely on defense, as most 8-man teams do, but they can't. They have the players to do it. And, you know, you mentioned Carey, powerhouse, some years. I see Carey coming right back at it.
Yeah.
They seem to always be in the mix there. You mentioned Lighthouse Christian. This is a program that's not even yet 15 years old. Nick Karavitas started the program. You know, Coach Van Vliet helped elevate it to where they're at now, and now you've got Corey Holloway running the program, Eric Silva, an all-state caliber player, coming back. You know, you got to look out for that team, and they've got road games in September at Wilder, very good team in District 3, and then they go to Carey. So 2 big challenges early for Lighthouse Christian.
And that Wilder game, if I remember right, that was the state championship game 2 years ago?
A couple years ago. Yeah.
So that's a rematch. And then you mentioned at Carey. And that's going to be another good game, and potentially maybe even a de facto conference championship game to determine who wins the district title.
Yep, absolutely right.
Castleford with a tough close to the season as well. You're trying to be maybe one of those traditional quote-unquote middle-of-the-pack teams that make a run. That's when you start looking at a schedule, and you look at some of those who has a favorable schedule going down the road. Some teams a little more favorable than others. Head up to District 3 now, the Long Pin Conference. Salmon River Council. You know, those are the 2 teams that really you don't need to go a whole lot farther than that. All-State, Salmon River gets Gabe Gonzalez back, an offensive and a defensive lineman. Canyon Harper, All-State as a freshman, as a 9th grader.
Big kid.
JT Mahon at Council, very, very good player there as well. You know, those are 2 teams that I think a lot of people will automatically, just out of habit, we're just going to pencil those 2 teams in 1-2, and who makes a run to compete with them.
Right, and Salmon River, bringing back all these players, and they've combined, quote, with Meadows Valley, and they had a player, escapes me right now, intricate part of their championship team that came from Meadows Valley.
Was Brandstetter? Was he the Meadows Valley kid?
I can't remember. Apologize for that. But you see these teams. You know, we go back to St. Carey had 31 teams. I remember Salmon River won at Boise State. They had 12 kids in the sideline. They won. So it's talent. It's all about talent when you get to this level.
Well, and Charlie Shepard, boy, he does a fantastic
Coaching
job
helps.
up there.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've never driven through Riggins,
you're missing out.
It's kind of one of those blink you miss it kind of towns. I mean, it's right along the Snake River. So
Salmon River.
I'm sorry. Beautiful, very picturesque, big in the tourism industry.
Yeah.
But it's not a big town.
Yeah.
And yet here they go with these small teams in terms of quantity.
Yep.
And every year Charlie Shepard, he's got them in the mix.
It's just the tradition that they have there at Salmon River High School, and it's just I kind of hit on it before. Is well, what else is there to do in town during the winter time, late fall? You support the school teams.
Yep.
That's what you do. And so these kids grow up thinking, hey, I'm going to be the next star for Salmon River High School.
Yep.
I'm going to be the next stud football player, stud basketball player, whatever sport it may be. I mean, these kids, they look forward to being able to play high school sports and to represent their community on the football field, and so they work hard towards it. And the tradition is just great there. Charlie Shepard has done an excellent job. And you mentioned Council. They've really come on here. They've put out some good talent in terms of football players and whatnot. I mean, they certainly have a tradition as well, and it shows on the field.
Yeah, and you see these kids on these rosters coming back. Same players we're calling in basketball. Exact same kids. You have athletes. They're going to be athletes in these towns.
Tough schedules early for both Cascade and Garden Valley. You look at Tri-Valley, not only do they have a bit of a favorable schedule in that both Salmon River and Council have to go to Cambridge to play Tri-Valley, but also 5 all-conference kids back, a couple of offensive linemen. You got a running back, you got a defensive back. Head coach Bob Johnson, he's got some chips to play with there in Tri-Valley.
And if there's a team to knock off either Council or Salmon River, it may be Tri-Valley, just based on that, because they have the returning starters.
Right.
They have a that opportunity for it to be at home in their home, compound basically, and to the friendly confines as you call it. And I mean, that's a team right there where they have an opportunity. They're the best opportunity out of everyone in the conference to be able to do that. I don't know the prospects of other teams in the conference, the chances of them knocking them off, but Tri-Valley has the pieces in place to do that.
What's exciting about that is in 2014, 1-7. Last year, 6-2.
Yep.
So they flipped that program around, coming right back.
Moving over, we already talked about Sawtooth West in District 4. Now let's talk about Sawtooth East, District 5-6. Butte County, a team that you were mentioning, they were 2A not that long ago, and now they've petitioned down to 1A Division II. They only have the 3 home games this year: Dietrich, Idaho City, Clark County. Then you look elsewhere. You look at a North Gem, you look at a Rockland, and you say, okay, which way is the wind going to blow in this conference? It's really hard to tell just from looking at it on paper.
It wasn't too long ago that Rockland was the champions of the conference, and they went 0-8 this last season. So a tough year for the Rockland Bulldogs. Butte County dropping down from 2A. A few years ago they were 2A. They spent the last 4 years 1A Division I. Their enrollment now 99 kids, right at the top threshold for 1A Division II. So they've dropped down. You look at Water Springs, they're a program that started out very well when they were named Calvary Chapel. They actually won the conference in their first year of being eligible at the IHSAA as an IHSAA member. Struggled to a 1-6 record last year. Clark County had a great year last year. They were a team that had really not done a whole lot. They
7 wins. Yeah.
Yes, and they played in the Montana 6-man leagues for a long time. Montana asked them to return to Idaho. They really struggled for a while. And then last year they get a new coach in Greg Shenton, who picks up the pieces of the program just a few weeks before the season, puts them together, and they end up winning a conference title with who they have.
And then go to state in basketball as well.
Exactly. So they had a really good group of athletes come through there. And then you got North Gem. North Gem under second-year head coach Dana Strong. Coach Strong spent some time up at Timberline. And it's one of those things where he's utilizing the talent that he has before him. Now, they ran into a very good Cary team in the state quarterfinals in the playoffs and fell to Cary, but that's a team that we may have to watch out for here in the future. But if you look at it right now, Butte County's got a good tradition. They've played very well in 8-man football since they dropped down. They, along with North Gem, should probably be a favorite heading in.
Back to you, Will.
Another dramatic pause. This is a part of the show where Paul plays the role of Monty from Major League.
Sweet.
Boy, that online broadcasting school really paying off, Paul. We move into what we're calling our on-the-spot segment, where we take a look at maybe some teams that are off the beaten path a little bit, someone that no one's really talking about. Paul, we'll start with you since you've hung me out to dry twice. We're gonna come back to you. 1A
a two-man
Division
team.
II.
Just saying.
Touche. 1A Division II. We mentioned all the big boys. We mentioned all the bullies. Who's somebody that maybe hasn't traditionally been in that conversation that could crash the party this year?
Well, we talked about them already. Back in 2014, they were in nobody's conversation, and that's the Tri-Valley Titans. It's a conglomerate school. Cambridge, Midvale, and the Indian Valley area make up Tri-Valley. And second season, Bob Johnson, like you mentioned, 6-0 they went, and then they lost to Salmon River and Council. That's a rough way to end the season.
No shame in that, though.
None. Almost 50 points a game is what they were going with before that. They do return their quarterback, Jaden Mink, sophomore quarterback. Guy's a stud. But the guy to watch will be Blake Vogel. He's a senior running back. He's going to be kind of the monster on the team. He's going to get the ball pretty much as often as he wants. They're going to run the heck out of him. And he's going to be successful because he's got Corbin Fain on the line, basically clearing the way for him. He's 6'3", over 200 pounds, big kid, 230 pounds, I think is what he's closer to. And he anchors both sides, like we see so often in these 1A D2 schools. They just kind of turn around and face different directions on that line. So if Mink can connect with JT Clinton and Parker Cornwell a few times, great receivers, get that lead going up, give their defense a chance to do their job, Tri-Valley is going to be very tough to beat this year.
Matt, what about you? Who's your team that maybe isn't getting the early dap, if you will, that maybe you think they should?
I'm going to go with the North Gem Cowboys out of Bancroft. They are a team, I mentioned it just a few moments ago, that they had a really good year last year. But coming back, they have a chance to win a conference title here this year. They keep their quarterback, Walker Davids, quarterback senior year, run threat, a pass threat as well. They do lose some key players in Dallin Lloyd, Carson Lloyd, and Tyler Perkins. But this North Gem team is very physical. They love to hit people, and they're a team that we certainly have to watch out for. They have a good amount of talent still on the roster. If they stay injury-free, they could potentially have a good year. They averaged about 40 points a game last year. Gave up an average of 25 overall. Went 6-3 overall in their first year under Dana Strong. That's a very good sign for a program when you bring in a brand new coach for them to go 6-3 right off the bat. I mean, again, and if you look at the prospects in the conference, well, Rockland was 0-8 last year. Right. Water Springs was 1-6. Clark County was 7-3, but they graduated quite a few seniors. And then you have the new dog in town, Butte County, dropping down from 1A Division I. So that could be a potential matchup there when Butte County and North Gem meet up. Maybe that's for a de facto conference title game.
You want me to throw a real wild card out there at you? We haven't even mentioned their names yet. coming out of the White Star League up north, Lakeside, out of
Lakeside,
Plummer.
yeah.
Chris Dorman, the head coach up there, he has some nice skill pieces coming back. Tough road to navigate, but don't be surprised if they pull off a big win or two along the way up there.
That's a good one. I like that one.
Quick time out here on IdahoSports.com. When we come back, we're going to talk about some issues facing 1A Division II, some changes, some things staying the same. You'll have to come back to find out what all those things are. You're watching the IdahoSports.com 2016 High School Football Preview 1A Division II style. We'll be right back.
Check out my multi-movie simulation station.
Why wouldn't you just take Cable One's new Ultimate TV experience powered by TiVo? It's a full home DVR that lets you record 4 HD shows at once. Cable One, it's just common sense.
Some people go the extra mile. Your Northwest Toyota dealer goes the extra 25,000 miles. They give you 2 years or 25,000 miles of no-cost maintenance and 24-hour roadside assistance. It's called Toyota Care, and it's included with every new Toyota. That means wherever you are, you'll be prepared for anything. Get Toyota Care no-cost maintenance and roadside assistance at your Northwest Toyota dealer today. The best in the Northwest. Toyota, let's go places.
Valleywide Cooperative is a locally owned farm supply cooperative committed to meeting the needs of its customers since 1920. We provide you products and services of the highest quality. We are found serving our customers throughout southern Idaho, eastern Oregon, western Wyoming, and other neighboring states. We provide agronomic products and services, bulk feed and petroleum, competitive services in our propane division, and a vast array of products in our Valley Country store locations. Let us help you. Come see us today at the Valleywide Cooperative.
Here come the last of the 2016s.
Stylish Prius, sporty Camry, adventurous RAV4, they're all here. But not for long. Come in and get the 2016 Toyota you want before they are gone.
Toyota, let's go places. It was our dream to move out here. I just wasn't sure what she would think. Took her away from her friends. Asked her to do twice the work of most kids her age. But through it all, she never gave up. On me, or anything else. Wonder where she learned that. Massey Ferguson, the last tractor you'll ever need.
Welcome back to the IdahoSports.com 2016 Fall Football Preview. Talking 1A Division II. The small guys work just as hard as the big guys, just aren't quite as many of them. I'm Will Hoenike, and I'm joined here for the remainder of our broadcast here. Matt Harris, our East Idaho Game Night expert, Paul Kingsbury. Well, the owner. I mean, let's
had to be here.
Let's be honest.
The only way we could do this is if he was on.
The guy runs the show, so if he says he wants to be on the air, we put him on the air, and that's how we roll.
I hate you guys.
1A Division II, smallest classification out there, and we're seeing a trend now, and we talked about it in the 1A Division I. You can watch that segment online as well. We've even talked about it a little bit in 2A and 3A. The small schools, unfortunately, just getting smaller, and 3As can become 2As, 2As can become 1A D1, 1A D1 can become 1A D2. 1A D2 becomes history, if you follow what I'm saying. If some of these schools drop any farther, there's nowhere left to go.
You look at some of the schools that have dropped out of the picture historically. Historical power, the Mackey Miners, for example. Yep. Mackey was a huge 1A power back in the day.
Fighting McKelveys.
That's the Fighting McKelveys, yeah. And by the way, congratulations, Jack McKelvey, on your retirement from teaching. He's one of the good guys.
All the Crosh kids that went on to play college football.
Yeah, I mean, look at their program now. They can't even field a full football team. They're playing a JV schedule. there's not enough kids there anymore.
Yep.
And I mean, you look at some other schools. We mentioned Mullen already. Mullen had to cancel their football season last year. They didn't even have enough kids for a JV schedule. You see some of these smaller schools who struggle with these numbers. I know Clark Fork has struggled before. I believe Timberline has struggled before. There've been like you look at Meadows Valley. They have to co-op with Salmon River
Yep.
in order to play.
No show band. You go up
Showband.
north.
Showband's been gone for a few years now.
No Midvale. At one point there was a Midvale.
Yeah.
No Midvale.
Leadore as well. You look at Clark County this year. They're actually co-oping with Lima, Montana to have enough players to field a team. They're doing that because Lima is struggling with numbers as well. There's just not a lot of people moving to these small towns anymore.
No.
It's all moving in the wrong direction, and you see it affecting play on the field here. And unfortunately, there's not a whole lot you can do to reverse that trend.
Right. It's nice to stay in the town you grew up in, live there forever, but you have to provide for your family as well. And if there's not a lot of commerce going on in your town, not a lot of business in your town, you've seen the sawmills getting shut down up north. People have to move where they can support their families, and unfortunately that's causing those smaller towns to get smaller. And what they'll do is they'll try to move to a town that's small as well. So you see those 2A schools maybe fluctuate between the 1A Division 1 and 2A, but eventually they leave there as well. So it's unfortunate. You're seeing the bigger schools getting bigger, CUNA going up to 5A. We talked about those and the others. The small towns are getting smaller, and I honestly hate to see it.
And talking to a coach, a 1A Division II coach, and to protect him, I'm not going to identify him, but he said, Will, here's the problem I'm encountering in 1A Division II. I don't have a huge student body. I want to rally these freshmen to come out and play to supplement my numbers. I lose a couple seniors to injury. I have to plug in freshmen. They're not quite physically ready to play yet. They get their heads kicked in for a couple weeks. They quit. All of a sudden, the next year, I've only got 9 kids.
Yep. Well, you look at Rimrock right now. Rimrock, even though they're 1A Division I, they had to combine with Greenleaf last year, the co-op, so they could just field a team. That's all it was. And this year, they can't do that because they have a large incoming freshman class. Well, those freshmen, like you just said, are going to be going up against kids who are 3 years more mature than they are. Yeah. And that doesn't make the experience of high school football good for them, which is why you see, okay, well, maybe I don't want to play high school football. Those freshmen struggling to get them in there. And it's just one of those issues that I don't know if there's any unavoidable way to go around it.
Right. It'd be interesting to do, maybe Will likes to write about small schools. And
I love the small school stuff.
Maybe that's something we look at doing and kind of doing a little investigation and asking around and saying, what can be done? There's got to be a plan in place to do it. There's a lot of co-oping going on, but what happens when those teams just go away? You don't want to see it.
Well, you see, there's been a proposal that's been put forth. It hasn't been put to the IHSAA, but it's basically to create maybe a 1A Division III. Make even another classification for those, so those small schools could maybe play, say, a 6-man football, something that more is accustomed to the base of kids that they have, the amount that they can draw from overall. Maybe that's a solution. It would have to be talked over quite a bit because, again, that's a huge change that would have to be made.
It's a completely different game.
It's a different game,
They tried that a couple of years ago, doing a 6-man league, and I think a couple jumped on. It didn't work, and so they just scrapped it. I mean, at what point do you just start playing 500? You either co-op, you don't, but the 6-man, it didn't work as well.
Have a Madden tournament.
I would get on board for that. I have some eligibility left, so I could jump in there.
But to your point, Paul, I mean, at that time, there wasn't as many programs as it seems now that are shuttering because of that.
Right.
Now there are.
Yeah.
Like Mackey at the time was still playing.
Right.
Clark County wasn't having to co-op. Mullen wasn't having to shutter their program. Now is maybe the time to reopen that discussion even just a little bit to see if there's more interest out there.
Remember back to Paul about 10 years ago, and Matt as well, and Paul as well. There was a time when the what is now 1A, it was A4 at the time. There was an A4 11-man, and there was an A4 8-man.
Yeah.
And those were the two different classifications. Could we see a point where there is a 1A 8-man and a 1A 6-man, and you give them the option?
Well, a problem with it is the schools that need to go 6-man are few and far between. And so if you've got such a small school, small student base, you're not going to have a lot of funds. And so if you've gone all the way down to 6-man, you're going to be playing other 6-man teams a long ways away. Mm-hmm. So is it cost effective to go 6-man? Sure, you're going to get your kids to play 6-man football, but is it cost effective for the school and the community to do that?
Yeah, if your nearest opponent is 220 miles away. Yeah. Fair point, very valid point.
It very well could happen in the future. I think it's something that maybe will happen. I don't know, 5 years down the line. Maybe that discussion is had 10 years down the line. But again, there are those undeniable facts that, well, you're still going to have to travel and probably farther than before. Right. And if the trends keep going the way it is, it's not like those schools are going to have that money or just find all of a sudden a big bounteous increase in money to be able to do that.
Well, when I win Powerball, I'm gonna wait till it gets to be about 500 million or something. I mean, 50 million. Who needs 50 million? Yeah. I want 500 million. I'll fund some of those smaller schools. I'll do it myself.
They'll name it all Will Hoenike Field.
Exactly.
Idaho Sports is for sale at that point.
Yeah. I got $12. $12, and it's mine.
Done.
Yeah, nicely done.
It's all dimes.
One of the big parts here on IdahoSports.com, obviously we do the schedules, we do the scores, we do the photo galleries, polls, power rankings. We also do a lot of webcasting, as you know. The regular season video webcasts, we'll get back to them in a minute, but there's been a change as far as the state tournaments. IdahoSports.com, now no longer the exclusive video provider for your state tournaments, but we'll still be involved.
Absolutely. And, for the last 10 years, Idaho Sports has been the exclusive video and audio provider for high school state tournaments. This spring, the IHSA Board of Directors moved away from that and went with another company, and the video rights went away. Well, they're split, though, so we went back, submitted a bid for the audio rights, and last week the IHSA Board of Directors approved IdahoSports.com as the exclusive internet streaming provider for the audio rights for state tournaments. So this year we'll be doing as many football playoff games as we can do, including the championships.
Yep, listening online, yep.
And we'll do as many video as we can, but there is that rights issue, and you respect rights.
Play by the rules.
Absolutely. Yep. And so we'll do what we can when we can, but expect when you get into championships especially that there'll be audio. Basketball, all 132 boys and girls games will be done audio only on IdahoSports.com and for free to you, the listener. We want to stay involved. We've been doing it so long. We love what we're doing. This allows us to stay involved, and it also allows us to provide you, the fans, something for free if you can't be there in person.
One thing, a rule change that we should probably clarify for those of you who are maybe new to the game, if you will, the 1A Division II. There's always been a mercy rule. There's always been a mercy rule. Games ended at halftime. There was a running clock, whatever it may be. But the mercy rule for 1A Division II, they continue to tweak it to find the right formula that is the most equitable to both the schools and to the players involved. So, Matt, why don't you explain how we're doing it this year?
And I think speaking of that formula, they found the right balance, in my opinion, and I think this is going to be very, very good for Idaho. So what happens now is the old mercy rule was once you hit the, I believe it was either 40 or 45 point threshold. So two mercy rules ago, once you hit 45 points at halftime or later in the game, game's over. Last year that was changed to once you hit 45 points, it now goes into a continuous rolling clock throughout the rest of the game, only stops for timeouts, officials' timeouts, or scoring plays. Now they've kind of struck a balance between the two here, gentlemen. What it is it's once you get 40 points, any point in the game, that 40-point lead, clock starts running. Well, clock only stops when there are timeouts, injury timeouts, officials' timeouts, coach timeouts, or scoring plays. Once it gets to halftime, that is when the game can then be called by the losing coach. Now, they can continue to play into the second half if they want to, totally fine. If they play, let's say they play halfway into the third quarter and said, no, we should probably call it, the losing coach can call a timeout, talk to an official and said, we're going to call the game where the mercy rule is in effect. Game's over at that point. It works well for two reasons. One, then you're not having to watch a continuous running clock and see one team still running up the score per se when the game is well in hand. Or, number two, it also gives you an opportunity to put in those second and third string players, whereas you couldn't do that before with the rule when it ended right at 45 points, Paul.
Right, and that's when the rule was that, I'd say it quite a few times during those 8-man broadcasts of, why don't we just do a running clock? We've got to do a running clock, because we get to halftime, and Leighton Vander Esch throws for his 1,000 yards in the game, comes out, and meanwhile, second string quarterback, he doesn't have any grass stains on him or anything. Not much experience can happen in those games when, the starters come in, they're out at halftime, everybody's out, gets their orange slices, goes home. Now they can continue to play. They can get better. They can prepare their kids coming up, the sophomores, the juniors coming up, get them actual playing time, and that's what they need.
Games begin on August 26th. Right around the corner. Hard to believe we're already there. IdahoSports.com, as we mentioned, during the regular season, no changes. We're going to be doing webcasts from all over the state. We've got a broadcast team up north this year, a dedicated broadcast team, so we'll be seeing more out of District 1 and District 2. We've got a few teams here in District 3. District 4, Scott Burton down there. District 5 and 6, Matt Harris, among others, will be over there as well. Good opening weekend lineup.
as you can see the graphic on your screen, the 26th, nice slate of games. Aberdeen, American Falls, Capital Bora, South Fremont, Gooding, Snake River, Blackfoot, Timberline, Emmett, Kuna, BK, Moscow, Grangeville, Shelley, Snow Canyon, Utah. This is the Rocky Mountain Rumble at Holterini and Pokey. Rocky Mountain versus Pleasant Grove, Utah as well. Now, switch over to Saturday. We've got 4 games on the 27th. Skyview, Box Elder, Utah. Rigby, Syracuse, Utah. Highland versus Lewiston. Minico, Stansbury. Not any 1A Division 2 games, but don't worry. We're big fans of 1A Division 2. Like we said, we've got that broadcast team up in District 2 now. We've already got some prepared for there, as well as other places in the state.
Definitely looking forward to it. As Paul, as you mentioned earlier, I love the 8-man game.
Yeah,
I mean,
we all do.
If I could be the dedicated 8-man broadcast team, and one week be over doing North Gem, and the next week be up doing Clark Fork or Kootenai or something, I'd love that. So don't fret if you don't see anything on the schedule right now. We're going to get some 1A Division 2 games.
Just based on where our broadcast teams are, it's easier to get these. So don't worry. We love you.
And the 8-man game's so much fun to do as well. Just such a fast, open-paced game. And don't worry, we'll get some in there.
All right. Well, hey, we appreciate you taking the time to watch here, the IdahoSports.com 2016 Fall Football Preview. Don't forget to connect with us via social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. There's how you find us. Engage us there. Talk to us. We'll be happy to talk back. We love to talk high school sports at any time. But again, thank you for taking the time. There are previews available from 1AD2 here all the way up to 5A. Make sure to check them all out. Get to know what's coming up this season. Again, games kick off August 26th. Boy, that kickoff is coming up very, very soon. Matt Harris, Paul Kingsbury, I'm Will Hoenike. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on August 26th on IdahoSports.com.